Hello, today I'm going to be reviewing Half-Life Opposing Force released in 1999 for PC. Opposing Force was developed by Valve Gear Software and was published by Sierra. Opposing Force is the first expansion to Half-Life along with Blue Shift, which came out in 2001. Opposing Force adds 9 new weapons and a bunch of enemies, and in my opinion, is better than Blue Shift. Opposing Force also has you playing as another faction like Gordon Freeman in Half-Life or the guards and scientists in Blue Shift. But in this game you get to play as Adrian Shepard, a Marine, the same Marine sent to cover Black Mesa's research. Now, let's dig in. Our story begins as Adrian Shepard heads to the Black Mesa Research Facility, and we also find out he is only 22. Adrian is in the plane until he gets destroyed by aliens, which means that he didn't get the order to kill everyone in the facility. I mean, you can still kill everyone, but that's just the game letting you do that. This part is a really good intro to the game. It's funny, yet it also tells you the story without, well, telling you. It also reminds me of the Marines and Aliens, which is probably a major influence. The rest of the chapter has Adrian losing consciousness and gaining it a couple times till he finally wakes up.
5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Adrian wakes up in a medical area of Black Mesa. This part is again another part where you get armor, but unlike Blue Shift and Half-Life, everything has already gone to and he is already getting orders to forget about Freeman or to pull out. Not much to the chapter. You get the pipe wrench, which can take most crates out with a secondary attack, and you get the knife. Those are the replacements for the crowbar. Oh, and you get the deagle, which replaces the magnum, and in some cases is way better. It has a red dot for more accuracy, but with the downside of it shooting slower, and vice versa. But to get that, you have to use your night vision goggles. It isn't as bad as the flashlight, but it isn't any better. It is a bright green light and can be uncomfortable to look at. Oh, and you also get a shotgun. At the end of the chapter, you go into a tram. Other than those things, this chapter is a pretty good first-ish chapter. Oh nice, another tram ride. What is this, second in a row? Well, at least it isn't that long, and you can kill some enemies on the way to your destination. After you make your way through some of the facility, you see a weird alien killing a guard and a scientist. Spoiler alert, this is one of the new Race X aliens. Basically, they took advantage of the Renaissance Cascade and teleported to Black Mesa. Afterwards, you kill some aliens and make your way to where the Marines are. You get to see the guy who said all that forget about Freeman stuff in Half-Life.
Do you copy? Forget about Freeman. We're abandoning the base.
Come in, Cooper. Do you copy? Forget about Freeman. We're abandoning the base.
Anyways, as you make your way down to the plane, the G-Man stops you and you are forced to go another way. After that, the chapter is done and we enter... In this chapter, you get to see one of the new enemies. The big guy, as I like to call it, but its name is Gnome. Anyways, it's the mature form of the normal headcrab zombies. I wish we got to see more of this form in other Half-Life games, and would have been great for Ravenholm. After you see the big guy, you blow up a couple things, kill a couple aliens, and find a dying Marine. He basically tells Shepard to get the hell out of here. Then after that, you find another new enemy, the Pitrone, which is racing for first place next to the headcrab for the most annoying enemy, because they are fast. But they are pretty easy to take out. Afterwards, you kill some aliens, solve some puzzles, turn off the electricity, oh, and I got stuck. I really don't know how this happened, but it happened 2 times in my playthrough. One here and one at the final boss. I didn't want to load the save, so I had to no-clip. Anyways, we find some Marines and use an elevator. Not a bad chapter, but I like the one coming up more. In this chapter, you're going to be getting help from your Marine buddies. There's the engineer who can open doors that you can't. There's the other ones that just kill enemies, and there is the medic. The medic can heal you, if only he would. He won't heal me if I press E on him. I have to hold E to get him to heal me. How was I supposed to know that? By accident? Anyways, the Marines are pretty responsive and will follow you. I only had 1 or 2 times where they didn't do anything. Not much happens until you meet the medic outside. He just says,
Jeez, where's an engineer when you need one?
So we have to go into a vent and... Wait, you thought it was going to be only aliens we find in this game? Well, no. There are the Black Ops, which you get to see a little bit of in Half-Life, but you get to see more of them in this game. The males are basically Marine reskins, while the females are just the Black Ops from the first Half-Life game. They are here to clean up the facility. Anyways, after killing all the Black Ops, you find an engineer. He needs a medic, so you have to go get the medic and heal him. After that, the engineer opens the door and Adrian meets up with 2 other Marines. In this area, there is female Black Ops, which are just the ones from Half-Life, as I said. After killing all the Black Ops and hurting your buddy, there is an honor rail segment and there are more Black Ops. After killing all the Black Ops again and having all your buddies dead, you go to the railway and make your way to the next chapter. At the beginning of this chapter, you are in the Lambda complex at the same time Gordon Freeman is heading to Zen. We get to see him jump into the portal. Oh, and you can create a paradox. It doesn't do anything, but it is still cool. Anyways, Adrian walks into a portal and we get teleported to Zen. I know this is shorter than Blue Shift Zen, and I know in my Blue Shift review I said that Blue Shift Zen is better because it is short, but at least in Blue Shift you gotta kill some aliens. I would much rather take killing aliens for 5 minutes than jumping across a bunch of platforms. Anyways, you get the Displacer Cannon, which many people say is similar to the BFG 9000 from Doom. But I mean, they aren't wrong. You shoot at an alien, and the alien goes home. As simple as that. You can also use it to go to Zen to get some ammo, but I never found it useful because you get enough ammo in this game. After you jump into the final portal, Zen is gone. You won't see it again until Half-Life Blue Shift 2 years later, unless you use the Displacer Cannon. After getting teleported out of Zen, Adrian goes down an elevator to the underwater labs. Not much to this first bit, besides teleporting a scientist and having him open the door. This chapter, although very fun, doesn't have very much to talk about. I mean, there's zombies and pit drones. Anyways, after slaughtering a bunch of zombified marines, you let out an ichthyosaur out of its cage. These enemies are pretty difficult to take out. See, you can't fire any weapons besides the pistol underwater, so if you don't want to spend 5 minutes killing it with a pistol, you're gonna have to stand on land and wait for it to emerge. But after going into its cage and heading into more parts of the lab, we encounter a new enemy, the Shock Trooper. The same enemy that holds the Shock Roach weapon. They use electric attacks and can be pretty difficult if you don't watch out. The weapon isn't very good and I only found it useful when I ran out of ammo. But at this point of the game, it isn't that useful. It's pretty similar to the Hive Hand, but the Hive Hand targeted enemies. I will always defend the Hive Hand, no matter what. After killing some aliens and progressing, you go to Zen. What? More Zen? I thought you said there was no more Zen. Well, I meant something that wasn't longer than 5 seconds. Anyways, you kill a couple of ichthyosaurs and go into some sort of sewer. Turns out, this is the next chapter. After getting out of the sewer, Adrian finds himself in some sort of biosphere. Some of them don't have aliens, and some of them do. After going into one of the chambers and killing an alien, you enter more lab areas and some more biosphere areas. After exploring them and killing some aliens, you get a very cute baby version of the Shock Trooper, the Spore Launcher, which is so much better than the Shock Roach. I just never had enough ammo to use it. It shoots organic things and it's pretty fun to use. You can also see Adrian petting it in the idle animation. After following a sprite, you get introduced to a brand new weapon. The Barnacle. It's just a barnacle that the scientist detached. It is pretty fun to use, but is only useful for some key moments since it can only attach to organic surfaces. Oh, and it can kill small enemies at a small range. After making your way to a place we saw earlier, you can use the barnacle to reach a radio. You use it, and it says that some sort of border creature is here and that you need backup. Then you climb into a vent and get shoved into the next chapter. This part has you fighting a boss, if you can even call it that. It is very much like the tentacles in Half-Life. You need to turn on a valve and gearbox to kill it. Get it? Valve and gearbox? Anyways, I really like the design of the pitworm. Unlike the tentacles, there's no need to throw grenades or to crouch. You just need to run to where you need to go. After pressing a couple buttons, turning a valve, and crushing some boxes, you make your way to the main button. You press it and toxic waste kills the pitworm. Not a bad chapter. I do wish it was a bit longer because I enjoyed it. But after killing it, you walk across a bridge and enter a door to the next chapter. By this time, we almost have all the weapons. I didn't talk about the M429 squad automatic weapon. If you have enough ammo, it basically replaces the MP5, and you'll only use it if you run out of ammo for the M429 or for grenades. Anyways, this chapter in my opinion is the best chapter. You got Marines to help you kill stuff, there are plenty of aliens and Black Ops, and most importantly, you get the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle is the replacement for the crossbow, but is way better. For the sniper, you point and click, and boom, the enemy is dead. Anyways, after following the sprite and eliminating some enemies, Adrian gets to the surface. Again. There's just a couple Black Ops, so nothing too much. After fighting through some Black Ops, you find more Marine buddies. Again, nothing too much. There's some Black Ops and some explosives. Then, when you enter some warehouse of some sort, you get to see a shock trooper killing some Black Ops. I really like these small bits of the game. It really shows that the humans and aliens are going to war in some sort. Not war as in Half-Life 2 war with the Combine, but just trying to kill the aliens and failing. Miserably. Anyways, after going into the ground again, you know what? I bet Adrian is getting tired of going into the ground and coming back up over and over. Anyways, Adrian finds himself in a Voltigore nest. What's a Voltigore, you may ask? It's a Race X enemy. It shoots bolts and it really hurts. Anyways, there are a bunch of them and you have to make your way out of the nest. Not too difficult, but once you get out of there, the real fun begins. You and your new Marine buddies are trying to head to the dam, but to do that you have to kill everything in sight. Well, you don't need to, but with your Marine buddies and the weapons you have, you slaughter everything in sight, until you only have an engineer. After making our way out of that mess, we arrive at the dam, which was also in Half-Life. I like this part. It's really cool to go back to something, but that something is different in a way. There is a gargantua in the middle of the bridge. You blow it up and you enter the pipes under the bridge and fall into the next chapter. In this chapter, you have to give it your all. You have all the weapons, you know all the enemies, and it's just you and your Marine buddies. After killing a lot of Black Ops aliens and blowing up a wall, you find an AH-64 Apache. This part would have been a breeze if only I didn't have a single strain of health. Anyways, after dying 50 times and escaping the AH-64, you enter some sort of car parking area. You just need to kill the enemies and make your way down until you find a guard. He won't let you into his little hiding spot, and the only way to get in is if you deactivate a bomb the Black Ops set up. A bomb? Isn't that a bit extreme? Anyways, after deactivating it, he lets you in. He says that the only way to get out is through the level 4 storage unit. He also says that the Black Ops use it as a staging point until the aliens come in. He also wants us to come back for them. Well... Not a bad chapter. Not as good as the previous, but not bad. At the end of the chapter, you go down to the storage unit, which is also in the next chapter. Since the Black Ops use this area as a staging point, you're only going to see them for a while, until you get to an area where the aliens and Black Ops are fighting. I prefer to leave them alone and let them fight it out. After finding another guard, he says that you've got to get below because there is something there. So you grab everything you can and make your way down. What's down there? Not much. There's a rope, some organic stuff. Oh, and a huge portal! A gene worm tries to come out of its homeworld, but are we gonna let that happen? No! After killing it and getting stuck again, we are teleported to the end of the game. Hey, just a heads up, I'm gonna spoil a 20-year-old game here, so if you don't want to see it, just skip to the time frame here. After being teleported, Adrian regains consciousness, and who is in front of us? The G-Man, of course! He reactivated the bomb and Black Mesa blows up. Also, he is trying to get rid of the witnesses, so he kinda needs to detain Adrian. The G-Man walks him to the door, screen fades black, credits roll. I played Opposing Force for the first time last year, and I loved it. I came back to review it, and my opinion hasn't really changed. I love the new weapons and enemies, and I love the music. The atmosphere is really good, and I really enjoyed it. Some areas can be a bit boring or uninspired, but it is still enjoyable. It also has one of the best tutorial levels of all time in my opinion. You also get to see the G-Man a couple times. For example, he saves you at one point. On the other hand, he stops you. The enemies aren't too hard to kill, but are still fun to fight and never get repetitive. One thing I will say is that they just left Adrian Shepard in the dirt. You obviously still have Gordon Freeman in Half-Life 2, but in that game you also get to see Barney Calhoun. The same Barney Calhoun from the other Half-Life expansion Blue Shift, which I also reviewed. just to let you know. I would really like to see a Half-Life game where it continues the story of Adrian. Maybe have him fight the Combine and trying to save his Marine buddies, or maybe he can help Gordon Freeman to kill the Combine. I know there was a game called Prospect, but it doesn't look that good and it's not official. I'm just hoping we get a Source or even Source 2 Half-Life Opposing Force 2. This game isn't that short and clocked around 3 to 4 hours for me. I really like this game even though it has many flaws, but for $5, it's a bargain.